Hi, Tim and I are in the Jewish Quarter of Prague. We bought tickets to see several of the historic places here in the Jewish Quarter, and we had taken many tours actually throughout our trip so far. We went to Auschwitz, we went to Oskar Schindler's museum and took a tour there, and that was more about Jewish life in occupied Poland than it was about Oskar Schindler. We took tours of the ghettos in both Krakow and in Budapest, and we saw the walls that kept the ghettos in that were built to keep the Jews in. So we've seen, I'm sure there's several other things that we saw one of the largest synagogues, the second largest synagogue in the world, the largest in Europe, is in Budapest, Hungary, and because of so many people dying in the ghetto, they had mass graves because they couldn't identify everybody. They didn't have room for everybody, so they put them in these mass graves. And so there's these huge mounds in Budapest for that. So we've seen statues and all sorts of things that are memorials to this absolutely horrific time in our world. So we haven't been talking about that on video because the videos tend to be a little lighthearted and fun, and this is far from a lighthearted and fun topic. But we took a walking tour a couple days ago, and the guide spent maybe 10 minutes in this area, and he had a levity to the conversation that was very inappropriate, and so we wanted to come back and spend some more quality time here, so we just did that. You're going to see a whole bunch of photos follow and some videos without any commentary, so I wanted to give a little heads up about what is in those videos. So you're going to see a picture of, first I'll do a picture of the old new synagogue. It is one of the oldest synagogues in Europe. We weren't able to go in that was a separate thing. What we did visit was there were two main things that we wanted to see here. First is a synagogue that has the names of people who perished in World War II from Prague and the Czech territories, and it's massive. So there are 80,000 names inscribed there. By the way, 80,000 names is an enormous amount of names, and wait till you see what that looks like. It's not even comprehensive, but 80,000, this wasn't even one of the largest Jewish communities in Central and Eastern Europe. So it's really unfathomable when you see that all laid out, that this was just a little sliver of what's happening in this part of the world, and like I said, it's extremely tragic. So you're going to see the names. I'm going to highlight some of the names so you can see, so you have the big vast picture of the names, and then honed in to just understand that the names are written kind of small, and so having this big giant list of all these names and then they're really small is really hits home. Also, there's something, this isn't related to World War II or the Holocaust, but there is something called the Old Jewish Cemetery, and it's one of the most interesting cemeteries in the world, is where we had seen it. It has, so this was in operation from the mid 1400s to the late 1700s. It's behind me now. There will be some video from that, but what is interesting about that is that Jews don't, apparently what we read is that Jews don't, once you're buried, you're not being moved, so it's disrespectful to move the bodies, and they only had so much space that they were able to use to bury people who had died in this time. So and Tim's not going to pan. So, but behind me, you're going to see that there are these built. The cemetery is like a whole story above the rest of the street. The reason why is because they covered each body with a little more dirt and another body over the period, and then some more dirt and another body, to on and on and on and on and on. So you're going to see a lot of tombstones stacked up, and that's why, because there are many, many people, but that, like I said, that isn't something that's related in any way to World War II. They weren't buried, actually, the victims there, so they were burned, or they were all sorts of awful things, but they didn't have a proper burial in World War II. So that's what you're going to see, is that cemetery. So like I said, without any commentary, so hopefully that's something that you take the time to look at. One last thing I want to mention is, in one of these exhibits, they show artwork from children who were at one of the local concentration camps. It's very sad, and so they understood that educating children was still important. So they had leaders of the community, artists and scientists, teach the children so that they still learned, and art was a big part of that. So an influential woman had a big effect on having the children create the art, and it's not like they had crafts and lots of paper and pencils, so she had to work really hard to find any scrap she could, and that clearly wasn't going to be an easy thing for her to do. So it's amazing that they could even create this, but the artwork that came out is really quite profound for kids. So I hope that you take a moment to watch that. Thanks.